It's time to start your morning by taking 5. Here's your host, Matt McMaster.
2 to 5, a quick 5-minute take on the biggest things happening in Nebraska sports. I am your host, Matt McMaster, and today we are in the dog days of, man, we're so close we could taste football, but we're not there, right? We are 23 days away from going to Arrowhead Stadium, from watching the Huskers take on the Cincinnati Bearcats. We're even less of a time away from watching Farmageddon in Ireland between Kansas State and Iowa State. A game, by the way, that will go far in determining the standings of the Big 12, which is kind of crazy that that game is being played in Ireland. But yesterday was the peak of talking season, and next Monday will be kind of the peak of talking season turned into the holy crap, we're almost at the beginning of the regular season. The coaches poll of college football was released. Some surprises, some interesting entries, some interesting selections. We'll start with the top. We'll go over just a quick little analysis that I have of the top 25, then we'll talk about Nebraska. First off, Texas, Ohio State, Penn State, Georgia, Notre Dame are your top 5. 6 through 10 are Clemson, Oregon, Alabama, LSU, and Miami. Breaking down the top 10, Texas first, totally fine. Ohio State, I think they're getting the benefit of the doubt of being the national champions. It's going to have to be interesting to see what that offense looks like with new quarterback Julian Sayin. Then you have Penn State number 3. Not really a surprise there. A lot of people, I think, I wouldn't be surprised when we get to the media poll if Penn State ends up being number 1 overall. I mean, I think a lot of people believe it's Texas and Penn State when it comes to 1 and 2, which is why it's kind of surprising Ohio State is the 2nd overall team. Georgia, Notre Dame 5. They got a really good base of a team, especially with Jeremiah Love in the backfield. But another team that has some question marks at the quarterback position with C.J. Carr, who hasn't really played a whole lot for ND. So then you got Clemson 6. To me, Clemson's the second best team in the country. I would go Texas, Clemson, and then Penn State. Clemson is bringing back the most positive production back to their team this season. And what I mean by that is, like, yeah, you have the returning starters statistics here's how many starters are coming back to team, but then there's also the production aspect. How much production are you actually bringing back? You can bring back 18 starters, but if those 18 starters aren't very good, I don't feel like that means a whole lot, a la Virginia Tech last season. Clemson, they're not only bringing back a lot of starters, but they're bringing back a lot of guys who are high producers for them, one of them being Cade Klubnik, who is one of the top picks in the 2026 mock draft. I have seen plenty of mock drafts that have him number 1 overall. Then you got Oregon. Going to be a great season for Dan Lanning again. I don't think there's any question with that. Alabama, I think they're going to bounce back this season. They'll have a really good year. Then you got Miami and LSU to round out the top 10. Nebraska falls to number 39. It's actually kind of low from some projections that I've been seeing. Phil Steele, who writes the incredible preseason magazine, has them as a dark horse to make the college football playoff. Brett Ciancia, who does Pick 6 previews, I believe he has Nebraska at 35. I think Nebraska will probably be around that 32 to 35 range when it comes to the media poll. The reason, they are not in the top 25 really just comes down to the lack of returning production from last season to this season. Nebraska has a ton of talent. Nebraska has a lot of guys that could end up taking the next step and being very good next year. I mean, we can kind of go down the list of there's plenty of guys, whether it be freshmen or sophomore or juniors, who we are anticipating could be impact players. It's just one of those things where the sample size, in my opinion, hasn't been big enough for you to make a bold prediction that Cam Lenahart or Riley Van Poppel, Keona Davis, or you go to the wide receiver room, Ja'Cory Barney and Isaiah Hunter, and it's like there's a lot of those guys that I just named are really good. Vincent Shavers, Willis McGahee, Deshaun McCullough, like all solid players, and none of those guys are superstars yet. And you go through these rosters. I mean, even when you get up to Indiana, who's at 19, and Michigan, who's at 14, you have, top caliber prospects, first round draft picks, guys that are just for sure going to be in the all Big Ten first team, all Big Ten second team. Nebraska doesn't have that, but what Nebraska does have is plenty of guys who can develop into that, and a coaching staff in which you trust, and you trust the amount of experience and merit that staff has, whether it be from Matt Rule to Dana Holgerson to Phil Snow to Mike Eckler. So I think that Nebraska properly rated at 35, but definitely could be ranked in the top 25 once you get to that Michigan game in week 4. Very dependent on how they play against Cincinnati, not only winning that game, but how do you look when you win that game. One really quick analysis of this AP coaches poll that I want to touch on. You go through the top 18, and there are a lot of teams that I wouldn't call them quarterback questions, but you don't fully know how good or maybe how bad that their quarterback play is going to be. Texas, Ohio State, Georgia, Notre Dame, 4 of the top 5 teams, all going to have new quarterbacks this season to last season. Cade Klubnik and Clemson, all right, that's continuation. That's fine. But Oregon, Alabama, those are teams 7 and 8. Oregon's getting Dante Moore, who wasn't that great in UCLA, albeit a 5-star prospect who's been studying under one of the best coaches in the country, especially offensive coaches, in Dan Lanning. And then you got Alabama. They got Ty Sampson, former 5-star as well, but hasn't played a ton of football. And then you kind of get to the, we know Garrett Nussmeier at LSU and Carson Beck at Miami, Sam Levitt, Arizona State, Luke Altmaier at Illinois, Lenore Sellers at South Carolina at 13. But then you get to the 14th team in the country in Michigan. You're like, oh, Bryce Underwood, true freshman. It's a big ask to ask Bryce Underwood to come in and immediately be an impact player, especially at such a tough position. And then, even Florida, DJ Lagway, can he take the next step into being, from a good quarterback at the end of last season to can he be a great quarterback this season? And then you got Tennessee at number 18. You're like, I have no clue. Could be Joey Aguilar. Could be Merkinger, who I believe is the other backup. It's very interesting when you look at the scope of college football. A lot of these top teams have some interesting quarterback situations where you're not necessarily fully negative on it. I think that Arch Manning is going to be great for Texas, good for Texas, but I don't know if he's going to be a Heisman Trophy winner. I think Julian Saint's going to be good for Ohio State. I don't know if I can fully say, he's going to be awesome. Now he is throwing to some of the best weapons in the country. So it's just this quarterback, the current quarterbacks in college football right now with the top teams, and you can even throw in Dylan Raiola because he's one of the best quarterback prospects in the country. A year from, not even a year, 6 months, 5-6 months from now at the end of the season, we're going to be looking back at this quarterback class and we'll either be saying, man, quarterback play in college football has never been healthier, or we'll be saying, man, a lot of these guys were overrated and really didn't perform to the level that we thought, or we'll probably be in the middle where you got some guys who pan out, some guys who don't. You just hope that your guy's the one who pans out. So I'm really excited about this football season. I think it's a ton of talent all over the country with some interesting question marks that I don't want to call it wide open. I don't think this is anyone on this top 25 list and beyond can win the national championship. I think you have a pretty solid idea of who the true contenders are. But I do think it's not just, all right, it's going to be Alabama versus Georgia this year. I think that there are about 6 to 7 real players when it comes to winning the national championship this year, which is what you love to hear, especially in a college football playoff system. All righty, I've been Matt McMaster, and that's been Take 5.